But we've seen that enemies of the mansion house could be families falling on hard times, mining subsidence, or even civic vandalism. But another sworn enemy was fire. This was Elows Hall, which was built in 1821 for John Turton Ferriday, an ironmaster at Ruiton between Upper and Lower Gornal, near to Sedgley. The previous year, in 1820, the Jacobean Horsley Hall at Tipton had been dismantled and the carved oak staircase carefully removed and placed in this new build. But legend had it the ghost of Horsley had travelled with the staircase, for it made frequent appearances in Elows Hall. By 1900, John Lloyd Gibbons was in residence, and he'd amassed a fortune from his manufacture of synthetic farming fertilizers, chemicals. Before this, prisoners used to have to grind animal bones in their cells for spreading on the fields, bone meal. I'd love to go to Brinsford with a bag of bones and get them working. Now, during his stay, Wolverhampton's novelist Ellen Thornycroft Fowler produced this novel, The Farringdons, about the fictitious Major Farringdon and his family's adventures in their home, the Willows, which she had styled on Elows Hall. She also used other Black Country landmarks, such as the Springvale blast furnaces at Bilston, for which a series of postcards was produced with captions from the novel. Now, I collect both the postcards and her novels. We'll hear more of Ellen Thornycroft Fowler a bit later. In 1960, a mysterious fire gutted Elows Hall. 4 years later, a modern secondary school of the same name occupied the site. This was Wrotsley Park, which was built in 1671 for the Wrotsley family, halfway between Wolverhampton and Shifnal. Now, if you were fans of Downton Abbey, as I was a few years ago, you'll know that the kitchens in a house of this magnitude were located in the basement. It was on the evening of the 15th of December in 1897 that fire took hold of the kitchen. By the following morning, this is all that remained of Wrotsley. Our novelist Ellen Thornycroft Fowler was quick to seize upon the romance of the gutted building. In her novel Fuel of Fire, it became Baxendale Hall, against which the following curse was uttered. I'm going to be quite dramatic now. First by the king, and then by the state, and thirdly by that which is thrice as great as these, and 1,000-fold stronger and higher, shall Baxendale Hall be fuel of fire. In the 1920s, the then Lord Wrotsley salvaged what he could and reconstructed the house on a smaller scale. It's now split into 4 different apartments, and this section was offered for sale for 700,000. I think it was about 2007, probably worth £1 million now. And this is our last mansion house. There had been a timber-framed house belonging to the Littletons of Hagley Hall at Presswood for many centuries. But about 1690, they sold it to the industrious Foley family of Whitley Court fame, who quickly had it replaced with the Strawberry Hill Gothic pile. Now, this very unusual photograph shows a garden party on the front lawn. In 1920, it was purchased by the Staffordshire Health Authority to be used as the county sanatorium, the TB clinic. The patients were never going to be housed in such grandeur, for the wards were all open fronted in the grounds, where it was felt the fresh country air would benefit the black country lungs. It was on the 22nd of January in 1922, at a time the house was being converted to staff accommodation, that the administrator was away with the keys. This was a Sunday, and the gardener looked from his cottage window and thought it strange that smoke was issuing from the chimneys of the empty hall. When he looked the same direction 2 hours later, the whole roof was ablaze. He jumped on his bicycle and pedalled to the nearest public call box, which was outside the Stew Pony Hotel on the A449. By the time the fire tenders had arrived from Stourbridge, the place was a shell. I'm sad to show you the demolition of another fine old country house, which was rebuilt by the health authority, and the current house might even be demolished by now itself. I also speak to Kimber U3A, and the member there actually owns the estate and had turned the house into a care home. And she told me they'd got permission to demolish it. And I haven't had a minute to go round and have a look, because she did say she'd take me all over the place before the demolition. Well, there aren't many mansion houses left today, are there? I know there's Hammerwich Hall still standing. How about in Bountwood? Have you got any old mansion houses around? Not many left, are there? And those that are left, some of them are in dire straits. Do you remember Great Bar Hall, which was built in 1777, replacing an earlier timber home, which ironically still stands, as the ancestral home of the Scott family. In 1900, it was jointly purchased by Walsall and West Bromwich health authorities and turned into St Margaret's Mental Colony. In 1980, the government passed the Care in the Community Act and everyone was moved out. They were foolish enough not to employ a guard. Now, I'd have worked as security there for free in exchange for living in a lavish mansion house. Folks, you've got to watch me. I'm akin to a little bit of trespassing, you know. I scaled a near 10-foot high fence and nearly fell into the cellars. There's no floors, no ceilings, no roof. A company calling themselves Bar Lakes Limited, who are 10 Handsworth businessmen, purchased 60 acres and the hall. They insist they've got to erect a housing estate in the Humphrey Repton parkland to save the hall. And whilst their plans get debated again and again by the local authorities, each year a bit more of Great Bar Hall succumbs to the elements. Folks, let's hope it's not too late for Great Bar Hall and that it doesn't have to be added to the long, sad list of the lost mansion houses of the Midlands. Thanks for your interest. That's your lot, folks.
Thank you, Ian. That was very interesting. Has anybody got any questions I would like to ask?
Yeah. Do you it seems almost inevitable that most of these houses would go. I mean, do you see any way that they could have been, or some of them could have been saved?
Well, the whole story of these houses is money and the lack of money. They were built by the landed gentry really to show off, to entertain in. such as Strawberry Hill Gothic. When Strawberry Hill was built, everyone wanted to copy the style, so people would just simply demolish their existing house and rebuild in Strawberry Hill style, because it was all about showing off. When Parkland came into being, you had about a 5 mile carriage drive all round the estate before you actually arrived at the house. It was all about showing off and showing off your wealth. But a lot of these families were hit by the loss of the heirs to the estates in the First World War, for instance. They were killed on foreign fields. Then in the 1920s, there was Great Depression, taxes, death taxes. And so without the money, who's going to take on a place like that? So it's down to institutions like educational facilities, care homes, whatever. Sometimes they get converted into flats. I approve of any method of saving these buildings as long as they're saved. But very often, such as with Great Bar Hall, they debate for so long that it just gets too late. And I think it is too late for Great Bar.